Rex, your wife is Scottish. That's where you live now. Was being a stay-at-home dad part of the migration plan?
Yeah, it was part of the plan. So the idea was that, I think there was an agreement that she would go home at some point, go back to the UK, and essentially I would take the role as a stay-at-home dad. So there was agreement to it. I do think that it was quite more appealing early on, and it's actually quite fun. But to be honest, there is a point now where it kind of feels a bit like nonstop, and you feel like it can get a bit too much. I mean, like one easy example was like yesterday. So, in this day and age, obviously with COVID and everything going around, so, one of my kids, 4, by the way, so one of them had a fever. And I can't send the older 2 to school unless I get the younger one checked for a COVID test. So it's kind of like, get a COVID test. It's not too bad here because the results come later in the evening, but still it's like everyone's quarantined at home. It's nice and sunny outside, but I can't let them out. And it is nuts, I mean, I'm really quite glad that, the older ones are back in school today, but it is really quite tiring. Dealing with demands. I find that when they hit 4, they start to be a bit more like, the questions start to reel off. Asha, I'm sure you know how it feels. The questions continue. It never ends. Yes. I'm watching a TV show and I'm watching a TV show. They're watching a show and I'm getting a question every 5 seconds. What happens next? Did that guy die? Is he all right? What happened to him?
Yeah, it's the why story that travels around with you, and it's just this never-ending loop. So how old are they? Tell us what you've got in your bunch in your football team.
Okay, so we have Ewan, who's oldest. He's 6. Ruri is 2. So we have 4 in the team. So Ewan is 6. Ruri is 4. Amaya is 2, and the latest addition is Taig. He is about 3 to 4 months. I think.
Wow.
I do find as the newest start to come in, I just tend to forget some of the details that kind of get a little bit more missing. But yeah, so it's all of them all together. We were initially hoping for 3, we ended up having 4. So hey, the more the merrier, and I think one of the big pieces of advice I was given was that after you have 2, things to tend to run itself on its own, which I don't really think is the case. I still feel it's really, really hard.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, they do say that, like, once you hit 2, like any number after that, it makes no difference. So you've got 4. Is there any difference, from sort of having 1? Did you enjoy 1 and 2 much more than the sort of what should we say, herding of 4?
I think it's quite tricky because I think I do admit the eldest is the most responsible, and he's actually pretty good at looking after the younger ones. But I do feel like there's some truth to it that becoming a bit more easier, more probably because you're used to the routine. You can almost in some ways you kind of have like predictive value of I think he's going to fall over. That's going to fall over the table. Why is he keeping that cup on the edge there? So you don't let him do that. You know what I mean? But at the same time as well, it doesn't change the fact. I think the number of the hours you put in, the nappies you're changing, the laborious aspect of it is still the same. I think what makes it easier is there's some kind of muscle memory or mind memory involved in knowing what to do. I think, that's the way I would see it.
So it's kind of like you've had a dry run first, and then now you're just doing it sort of like, it's like being a chef in a restaurant where you've got multiple pans going at the same time.
Actually, that's a great way to look at it. That's a great way to look. I think that's a great anecdote. And I do feel like, and actually, what? Now that you mentioned it, I do feel that obviously the newer ones tend to have it a bit more easier. I mean, the parents are more confident with what they're doing. I know, when we brought Ewan home, the oldest one home, the first time, he was, he was just we had him in his little, those little rocker chairs, the baby, baby cot things in the middle of in the living room in our little 2-bedroom apartment. We're like, so what do we do now? We didn't really have much support or help from family at the time. But we just didn't know what to do, what we're planning. But I mean, we're at the stage now where it's like, right, new baby's in, we'll do this, we'll do that. Who does this? Who does that? But we're on a routine now where because of the newborn, and my wife's on maternity leave, so she handles the newborn, and I just handle the 3 kids. And we just know that that's our roles.
Right.
And that's there's a system that's actually quite efficient, when you have more kids, I think.
Would you agree, or how much would you agree with this idea that basically there is a system always in place, but you don't always realize it until kind of you're in it or almost at the other end and a new system's required. You don't quite know what that is just yet? but you recognize there has been a system. Do you know that sort of idea? Because you never organize a system, it sort of falls into place. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I do feel like, parenting is very subjective. Like, we can't tell. I mean, as much as like I appreciate advice I get from other parents, I've always felt like I can't, my kids are not your kids. My lifestyle is not your lifestyle. We can't really mix and match, which is why I always refrain from telling people like, what you should do is, the problem is, I think he's teething. That's the problem. There's all that stuff.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, it's like we as parents, you always kind of discover what works best. I think I had a very simple example. A great example of this yesterday was like, so I was cuddling baby number 4. So we'll use numbers. I think that'd be easy to work out who's who.
That's
so
fine.
cuddling baby number 4 yesterday. And then like I realized that if he wants to go to sleep, I know he has to just like sit on my lap like I'm a chair, But then with baby number 1, it was cuddle over the shoulder. No, say rock to sleep. Baby number 2 was over the shoulder. Amaya, the girl, baby number 3, neither. She was just kind of, you had to lie her down on the bed and cuddle her on the bed. But baby number 4 sits on my lap. So everyone is different, and it's not like it was never the same way for each of them. I think that was quite a simple example of like how one size doesn't fit all essentially in the system. It does. Yeah. It is adapting. It's about learning what the solution is, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about that, you actually went back to the UK with your firstborn, right? So how difficult was it for you to settle into a new country and a new role at the same time?
I think it's quite tricky, yeah, because I think I think for me it's even though it's not something that it's sure it's not the case, but I did feel like there are not many stay-at-home dads, lots of stay-at-home moms, so I did find it harder to kind of integrate into that level of the parental community essentially. There was a little bit, there was always the 1 or 2 parents or moms who were like, okay, he's clearly a stay-at-home dad, talk to him, get to know him and stuff like that, let him know about the groups and stuff and things and such. But I did find it was a bit more tricky, and it's like you're not really, even when you get say like invited to a group with like play dates essentially with other kids and other parents, it's still a bit odd when you're just the dad there. Do you know what I mean? It almost feels like this doesn't make sense. But I think after a while you just kind of get used to what you're comfortable with and what you're not. So I think I kind of made it a rule. I think I've got, I know this sounds really strange, but I got this, rules of engagement when it comes to parents. So if I see 2 moms, I love it. If I see 2 moms in conversation walking back after the school drop off, I do not talk to them because I believe they're already engaged in some level of conversation. I can't jump in. One parent, I will jump in. So I think, so in my mind, I have my levels of like, how do I approach the situation? I really could make a little book about this. I swear. It either means I'm not ready to do, or I just have too much time on my hands. I don't know. But yeah, I think the integrating thing was much easier for the kids because it was quite. I think for us, one of the benefits was that we kind of came to the UK and it was pretty much just bang, bang, bang. It was like school was going to start within a few weeks, and when they just kind of had to jump into the roles and get used to things, I think for me it was I think there was some levels of like non-reliance on help because we didn't really have family here. Like even though we moved to UK with my wife's family, but her family was still in Scotland. We're based in England. So still quite
right.
Still 7-hour drive away. So I think, but I mean, but it was But eventually, I must admit, one of the great things because we live in a smaller town is that we've got the community. The level of community is pretty awesome. We have like parents from the school willing to help us out. We have some of the moms that I have friends and mom and the dad pals I made who are willing to help us with anything. And I guess from that sense, it's like it's kind of worked its way. But like you mentioned earlier, there is no prescriptive way in order for it to kind of sort itself out. It's just kind of trial and error, see what the solution is. Don't
my gran always says,
talking to each other. That's stuff like that.
Yeah, things you learn along the way. My gran always used to say, "Cross that bridge when you come to it." That's all you can do, right?
Absolutely. I'm a big believer in that. There's no point stressing about things you can't stress about.
Absolutely. So tell us, what's a typical day like for you now that you've got sort of all 4 of these kids? I know you said that your wife's sort of on maternity leave, but like for the other 3 at least, like what's a typical day for you?
Okay, well, maybe I'll do the scenario when she was still working. So if she was working, it'd be like, we're up at 6 or 6:30. It's like, and basically from 6:30 to 8, it's like shower, bed. So it's showers, clothes, breakfast, and then like out the door by 8:10. And I take all 3 of them because if your cat will be working from home, so would have to give her space to work. And then after drop off, it's like, the Amaya, baby number 3, gets playtime at the park. If it's too cold, come back and play at home. But then there's a pickup at 11 for baby number 2, who comes from nursery, and then you only get picked up at 3 o'clock, and then in between then it's kind of like I'm weaving what I can in a day. It's like clean the house, do this, I don't know, and but it is quite relentless. It's just repetitive. I think the thing that kind of gets to you that it can get a bit boring. I think like your mood is dependent partially on weather, because like when it's nice and sunny, you can go outside and do lots of great things, But then when it's really cold and really wet, you're kind of stuck inside. And I am, I do like try not to do the whole like TV as a babysitter thing, but let's face it, sometimes it can. Sometimes you just have to kind of let them just watch TV. Sometimes you need that kind of like break, and I don't think we should ever frown upon that. Because I do it.
Well, I think if you're trying to get supper together as well, and you need the kids sort of like not moving and glued to something so that they're safe, so you can cook supper. I think TV as a babysitter works. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I was just going to say yeah. Carry on.
So I was going to add, like, I usually find like, okay, so this purely from my opinion, my experience. I just feel like there's a certain age, and I think you kind of feel like, okay, can start to relax a little bit of what they do, where they go. So I find that once they hit 2, you're kind of a bit more like chilled out about, them playing in the garden, and you not always watching them every 5 seconds, that sort of thing. So I think like, that's why I feel like at the moment I'm kind of in a good stage where I've got like the third one is 2 years old already. So I can kind of just like leave her to play. I know that she's not going to like pick up anything she shouldn't pick up or put anything bad in her mouth and stuff like that, and feel a bit more relaxed. And then you kind of have that space where they don't, they can, the little balance, I guess, between watching TV and playing outside and being unsupervised, just being watched on, checked in on every couple of minutes and stuff like that.
Yeah. Have you had any mega disaster days?
Yeah. So usually I feel like, I usually like to say, set the tone. So so for me, it's like Monday usually sets the tone for me for the week. So if it's a disaster Monday, which means like we're late out the door, someone's got to brush their teeth. We left the bag at home, or we left the water bottles at home. Then pretty much I call it like, so it's a bad day. It's a bad week essentially, and usually things like that. And I would say any issues and lateness could be because of the boys fighting. Usually over something really stupid. Where's my hat? I don't want that glove. I want that glove. Which I think one of the great benefits of being in a tropical country compared to being in the UK is that when it comes to like winter and cold weather, there's how many layers of jackets and clothes and gloves and hats that you need to wear, and you kind of keep track of them. And then and I have Ruri, baby, boy number 2 gets quite like particular about that sort of thing. I don't know whether you ever have the issue of like the broken biscuit incidents. So it's like, yes. I won't eat a biscuit because it's broken. It tastes the same, but it's broken in half. No, I don't want it. Yeah. And then you're kind of and then like and then number of days I can count. Like Ewan and Amaya, they no problem. They'll eat whatever crumb piece on the floor and stuff like that. But like with Ruri, it's like we could be in the park. I can only have that one biscuit left. He's crying because he wants to eat something, but he won't eat it because it's broken. Anyway, I can tell you, if you look at your face, I'm sure you're quite familiar with this.
No, I totally get it. I had to invent the whole game of, but this kind is special because it's supposed to be broken in 2. It's 2 halves. So that's what worked for me. So there you go. Try that.
I will try that.
Okay. So let me ask you this, have you ever had any sort of negative feedback or anyone teasing you, or just being kind of, really down about you being a stay-at-home dad, whether it's from people back home or friends?
I wouldn't say I get it. I wouldn't say you get it directly, but I do feel. I don't know. This is purely me, assuming. But I do sometimes feel whether people wonder, when I'm a stay-at-home dad, why am I not working? Do you know what I mean? Am I lazy? That sort of thing. I think it's quite. I think it's quite debatable because no one's ever told me that directly or said that to me. But sometimes I do wonder whether people think that. And I think, and I have been told, and I've had the parents who kind of, the dads who kind of feel like, wow, can't believe, you do look after 3 kids. It must be a lot of work, a lot of patience, or such. It's really boring. But I do sometimes wonder whether people get that look like, why is he the one, or why is he the one looking after the kids? Should be the mom.
Has anyone ever asked you?
No, not really, actually. But let me just think about that one for a second.
Because I wonder why you're thinking this, whether or not this is something you used to think about stay-at-home dads before, and so that's in your head, or I just wondered how this particular thought,
Yeah, no, I haven't been directly asked the question, but I think for me, because I always kind of feel a bit like conscious about what people think of me, and especially when you're trying to, mix in with with moms and stuff like that, and it's quite rare, strange for a dad to be there. So they must want. I always wonder whether you wonder why I'm not there, why I'm not working, essentially. But I like to think that I generally prove my skills as a parent once I show how organized I am. I do get complimented quite a bit for being very good at managing schedules.
Militant dad or military dad, yeah.
Yeah. I think always kind of the way I can also kind of used to look at my previous work was like, because I was in some level of management, managing people, managing staff. So I was kind of wonder, right, did my experience as a manager help me with managing my children, or did my experience managing children help me manage people? So it's kind of like, which one came first? Which one helped which one? And I kind of see it that way, because honestly, I find like that my kids are the same. I have to pick the right days to talk to them. I have to choose the appropriate words and choices. When do I tell them the things like, I like that idea, but ... So I mean, it's a lot. It's very similar. I feel like it's very similar in the way it operates. I tell Kat one of the things, like, I do have my limits of telling off children like in a day, and Ewan being the eldest kind of like he gets on the tipping edge sometimes, and I tell Kat, I'm like, we have to stop there. I've told him off twice is the limit for the day. You can't go anymore if I don't know what's going to happen next. It will. I worry things are just going to go boom and stuff like that. He won't, or he'll forget the next day. So just keep it simple. 1 or 2 things you can tell him off about, and then we'll tell him off the next day for something else. Add it on.
Carry over, tell off. I love it.
Carry over. There you go.
So I just wanted to ask you that, because you brought this up. If you could run away back to your day job, would you do that, or are you kind of happy in this job that you've got right now, which is still a full-time job? Don't get me wrong.
I think I think I don't know whether this is my nature of never being happy enough. But I feel like when I was working my previous job, I was really excited by the idea of being a stay-at-home dad, because I love looking after my kids and I love spending time with them. But I have to admit, I have full respect for parents as well, because I feel I'm at the stage now where I do want to find work and get back into work again, because it is quite, and honest, and it's not. I obviously love looking after kids. I think it's a great time, the great fun. There's the good days and the bad days, just like you would at work as well, the good days and bad days. But I don't know whether it's just my nature wanting to do something different and getting bored of the routine. But yeah, I think I'm in the stage where I kind of feel I need to kind of branch out a bit more. But it goes a bit probably because I'm just so used to kind of what it is. I think like you enter a stage of parenting where you predict what's going to happen next, what your days involve. You have to pick up this time. Who do I avoid today? Who do I have to see today? Oh, check. It's all the. I'm sure you know how it, what I mean. But and I do think we all need that adventure at some point to do something a bit different.
Absolutely. And to honest parent, it's not so much the job itself that kind of is too difficult. It is actually, as you pointed out, the monotony and boringness of it that just makes you crave, like, just need something different, because it is, because you're always thinking about what to feed them next and da. So I get that. So
can I just add one thing as well?
Yeah.
Absolutely spot on, because I'll tell you like one thing. Like, I may be like strict on routine, but I know that things I'm not great at. Like, like my wife is like better at the stuff. Like, she does the arts and crafts, the drawing. She can sit down with them and do those activities. I really can't. As much as I try, like I can't have like, the holiday afternoons where I sit with them and like draw this, paint that. I'm the, go outside and play. I'll supervise with you. I'll blow bubbles for you. I'll fill out the paddling pool. I'm happy to like get involved, but I can't do those different levels of activities. And I know this, and I've spoken to parents who can fill hours in their day, and then we're doing like this like blocks arts and craft projects, and for me it's like, how do you do that? I really don't know, So I think that in some ways it's kind of like how it's the whole the monotonyness for me, that feels monotonous, and I can't do that.
I totally hear you. We should swap stories of because I feel the same as well. I used to have the same difficulty. So let me ask you, because I know your time is so short, because you've got something very important to go to. I'm going to ask about that in a minute. But
yes, I've probably got a diaper to change or groceries to pick up.
And a job to have, right? So just let me ask you before we get to that, right? What do you love most about being a stay-at-home dad?
I think it would be, you get to capture those moments that, because, I always remember when I was working, being on the phone and then getting calls saying, oh my God, he started walking, or no, he said this, and like, wow. And I think being a stay-at-home dad, I'm on the other end. I've been over the last year and a half, I've been calling my wife, telling her like, Amaya just said this, Ruby did this today, and it changes in all the different things. I mean, it ranges from things like, the first words, taking a step. Like the other day, my kid, like Rury's really, really good on his bike, and we have we have a BMX track in the house, and he actually did the full loop, and like, oh my God, he's in the lap, that's great, So it's like, it's the moments, it's being able to be, there for everything that happens and be able to witness it. I think that's something that I will miss. And yeah, I think and I think, it is a big reminder for any stay-at-home parent, whether mom or dad. And when you feel a bit bored and you feel a bit like, I don't want to be doing this, they are and then I know it sounds really corny, but when you want to be grateful about something, you do kind of think about, you've been there to witness those things, when you could actually be on the phone hearing about it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, wow, that's super powerful. I'm going to remember that when I'm feeling down. All right, you're going for your vaccine today. What's your backup? You've got 4 munchkins. What happens if you feel a bit crook and you want to take a nap on the sofa because you feel terrible? Is the whole world going to fall apart with you out for the count?
Well, I mean, okay, so I mean, I have to choose this answer very carefully, depending on whether my wife sees this video. So I think the answer is yes. I'll take the risk. Say yes. I think so, because I mean, I do think I'm just used to the schedule. That's all it is. I think when we look after the kids, the routine, you know what they do, what the plan is, and that comes with just getting used to it. So I think I even though I can be comatose on the sofa directing orders, it's still not the same as specifying how much how, for example, how Maya wants her juice, which cup does she like best, that sort of thing. It's all those really what I mean, little annoying things that the minor details, which you think doesn't matter, but actually does matter for them quite a lot.
Well, good luck in your. No, carry on. So that was a glitch.
I was going to say I was going to say, like, I think one of the big. I used to kind of really, one of the things I really hate is just like, you make a sandwich. How do you want it cut? They don't like it when it's square. They want it triangles. And like, why? It's just a sandwich. The filling's the same. That sort of thing. But it's like, this is how do you cut it? Like, that's really it.
Listen, cross, no cross, triangles, squares. It matters. Really matters. You're doing really good work there. Thanks so much for giving us your time, Rex. Go
thank you,
change
Asha. I appreciate. I have to admit, it's nice to talk to another parent. I think it's also like kind of nice way to share the pain and the feelings and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.